Hello, friends, and welcome to the Powerful Podcast. I'm your host, AJ McCord. In this podcast, we introduce you to powerful women who are changing the game in and outside of their field of play. These are women's stories, women who happen to be doing things that many of us can only dream of, but the lessons and inspiration they share is universal. What's up, everybody? It's AJ McCord, your host of the Powerful Podcast. I am so pumped to share this woman's story with you. Lee Whitwell is a pioneer, a trailblazer, and a connector in the pickleball world. This is one of the fastest growing sports in the world, and we talk about how important it is to not forget where you come from. And I think right now, as we are all finally stepping into the light of what women's sports should be and the spotlight that it should have, this conversation is critical because it reminds us that nobody gets anywhere alone, that there's always somebody who reached a hand back to help you through the next step, and that it is so important not to forget the women who came before us, because community and sport is for everybody, and that includes the ones who never had the chance to do what is happening right now. I'm so excited for you guys to hear this conversation. This is Lee Whitwell on the Powerful Podcast. Welcome back to the Powerful Podcast. I am so excited because today we are joined by somebody who is a pillar, a foundational piece of one of the fastest growing sports in the world. She is the #1 senior pro. She is the next gen national team coach. She is the co-founder of the Game Changer Events, which is a grassroots pickleball events company dedicated to empowering women, especially senior pro women and women 45 and up. She is from Gibraltar, hence her Instagram handle of Lady Gibraltar. Lee Whitwell, welcome to the Powerful Podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to have you. Lee and I got to know each other through my work when I was the lead play-by-play commentator for the APP, which is one of the pro pickleball leagues in the US. And just immediately, I would say we're drawn to each other because there's a little bit of sass that just ties people together sometimes. And it's just been so fun to see you, not just like get to know you as a friend, but now I'm so excited to share with you, or to share with everybody who listens to this podcast, who you are as a person, because it's, again, one of those things that I was drawn to is there's so many elements of sport where you view each other as competition, and you are somebody who views each other as collaborators and but at the same time, you're like, I'm the #1 senior pro, like fierce badass on the court, but you're one of those ones who's changing the narrative around women in sport. So I guess, Lee, just start by giving us a little bit more in depth of an introduction to who you are than I just did.
Oh, wow. I think you covered everything. I mean, other than, no, it was fun. I think you're right. We bonded over like sass, and you got my sense of humor.
Yep.
And that's always a good thing, right? But got into the sport 7 years ago and, haven't looked back since. It was a sport I said I'd never get into, and apparently I'm a liar. So, but no, it's been very fortunate, It's like I've had a front seat at the growth of the sport. I've been instrumental in it. I've been very fortunate to help shape it a little bit. And here I am.
And I want to talk about the way you've shaped it, because obviously pickleball is one of those sports, especially when it first burst onto the scene, that was two things. One, it was very, created a lot of opinions within the sporting world, because you had former tennis players who were like, and tennis players who were like, this is not a sport, this is not a thing, do not engage. And then you had the people who were in more of that, like 40 and up, 50 and up, 60 and up, who were like, no, this is for me, and I'm going to dominate my grandchildren and my children in this sport. So how have you seen this growth just in the 7 years, really, that you have been a part of it?
Well, I will say I was one of those tennis players that said, do not engage, do not engage, do not engage. This is definitely not a sport. When you walk on a court and the smell of like Bengay and knee braces and, oversized visors with glitter are ruling, I'm like, it can't be a sport. And lo and behold, it is. And then obviously, you see it's interesting because I wrote an article and I had to give a presentation on it on like what is the pickleball athlete. And I think the word athlete is now redefined in pickleball because it's everybody. It's your first time person at 68 who's being active for the first time in their life, right? Because Title IX didn't exist back then. And they, things were So it's like the word athlete sort of been redefined in this pickleball space because they all consider themselves athletes, and rightly so, because they're being athletic in their own mind for the time of life that they're in, right? But I think it's sort of slowly become this cohesive space. And I think there's still issues, obviously, with, I don't think I know, there's still issues between tennis and pickleball. And I understand it. Like if I'm playing tennis, I don't necessarily want to play next to pickleball because it's louder. It's a smaller court and proximity. And you've got 16 people on a space where normally 4 people would inhabit a tennis space. So the volume is up and the sport is loud. And I think, could they exist cohesively? 100%. But we do need space between both sides so that the noise doesn't filter over especially from the pickleball side to tennis. But I do think it's a great addition to every club. And I do think that as we get older, we get injured and we want to slow down a little bit. And pickleball provides that great opportunity for your, 65, 70 plus person who still wants to stay active and competitive.
Well, and I want to go back really quickly to the noise of pickleball because you, my friend, another thing that drew me to her, I was calling your match in Sacramento and you were partnered up with a woman who was wearing a Warriors jersey and it was like leading into the NBA finals. And I remember you two just engaging the crowd like no other duo that entire weekend. And it was hilarious because you had a little bit of sass across the net, but so much of it was directed at yourself and at the crowd and a way to get people fired up. And that's one of the things that I really love about pickleball is the way you can engage. It feels very much like everybody has a courtside seat in an NBA or a WNBA game, right? Like everything is close. So you can make eye contact as a player with all of the fans who are watching you because it's so intimate. How did you develop that personality within your pickleball game? Because I think you're known for so many incredible things within the actual sport of pickleball, but you're also known for who you are on the court.
Right. And I think, I was like that when I played tennis, right? And I always want to engage the crowd because, I have the attention span of a 2-year-old. So it's fun to just have those breakout moments. But especially in pickleball, I'm very, very cognizant of the fact that professional players our events sit on top of an amateur tournament. And the only reason I have a platform in pickleball is because amateur players watch me play. So it's very important for me to really bring them on that journey with me and to feel like they're part of my game and part of my match and part of my career, because it's sort of my way of saying thank you for being a butt in the seat, watching me perform like a circus monkey, which most of the times I do. Occasionally there's moments of brilliance, but there's a lot of moments of just, oh, why did I do that? Right. But I want them on that journey with me because it's very important to me because I know that the only reason I get to do this is because of them. So that's, and if I can do that in person and hopefully like on screen translating through, into the living room, then I think that's a job well done because that's the only reason I'm here is because of them.
Yeah. And it's not just on the television screen. Nobody is more willing to hop on a trend or do a TikTok at any point in any tournament than Lee Whitwell, which is how you have grown your platform to more than 50,000 followers. And a big part of that is I feel like these next gen athletes that you coach that absolutely adore you are coming to you or you're coming to them and you're like, okay, this is what we're going to do. And it is so fun to be around. How have you really embraced that aspect of being an athlete slash content creator slash influencer, which is something that every athlete is sort of working with how to do that, right? Like how do they go from just being the athlete, but then like needing to incorporate this social media aspect of their life. And for the most part, it's hard for me to do, right? And I'm in my 30s and I feel like I grew up still a little bit with social media, but like you just mentioned, like there wasn't social media when you were playing tennis. There wasn't all these things. So how have you embraced that next generation of connecting with an audience?
It was a forced embrace, right? Because it was like, oh, I don't need social media. I don't need this. I just want to be me. But the way to connect and grow the brand is you've got to sort of adapt and change with the times, right? And it was at the beginning, it was a little bit weird to do, but then, like anything, you get used to it. But also it was a way for me to be able to show like, look, when I get on the court, yes, I'm me, right? But I'm me plus, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the plus plus. And then off stage, I'm just me. And it's like, I want people to be able to connect with me and see me as relatable. And at the end of the day, we're all human, and I get to hit a plastic ball for a living, and I'm very, very fortunate for that. But I'm very human, and I want to be able to for people to feel very connected and relatable, because I do dumb stuff a lot, and I go through some serious stuff, and it's like, I want to share that and have people be part of the complete journey, just not the show on the court.
Yeah, this woman had me twirling on a broom courtside at one of the games. Where were we?
Was it Miami?
Somewhere.
The convention center in Miami?
No, it wasn't Miami. I never did. It was like somewhere cold.
It was Chicago.
Yeah, I think it was
when we had the furry convention next door.
Yes. So we're playing. Oh my gosh. So you have to like walk through these corridors, right, from the parking deck to this convention center. You walk into the convention center, and on one side is straight up a furry convention, and then on the other side is a massive pickleball tournament. And it was like the mingling in the middle at the coffee shop was one of the most unique environments I've ever been a part of.
I would say mine too.
Because you had people in full costume, like full on looking like a mascot from a college team, but like no mascot I've ever seen. And then like the most athletic people coming in drenched in sweat because they just finished their match. And in the middle of all this, Lee's like, I know what we're going to do for our Instagram reel this week. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, because you have balance and I don't. Exactly.
Yeah. And spins me around. And to this day, I cannot remember. There was like a song. It was some ballerina dance. And I was just like, sure, whatever. But it's so like, I tell that story to say that it is one of my favorite traits about you is you bring people in, and you are somebody that is a connector and a community piece. And you feel it from your next gen team that just absolutely adores you and adores giving you so much shit at any given moment because you give it to them. But then also with the people who are at these game changer events where you are embracing, like you mentioned, those athletes who are maybe athletes for the first time in their 40s and 50s and 60s. So much of women's sports is on the rise right now, and it is incredible to see the next generations behind us have examples. But how have you found that it's equally as important to include those generations of women where, like you said, they didn't have Title IX, they didn't have these opportunities, and they could feel a little left behind in this wave of what women's sport has become?
Right. And, and you and I, we've had these conversations, right? And it's like one of the reasons we started Game Change Her was I feel that as women, we need to do a much better job of lifting each other up. We're very good at tearing each other down. And I hate that we do that to ourselves and each other. So I wanted to sort of change narrative and be in the business of building people up, because rising tides lift all ships, right? And you've got these women who haven't played sports before, or maybe have played sports and then got married, had children, had a career, and now they want to come back in, but they came from a different sport, and trying pickleball seems maybe a little daunting. And it's like, nobody should ever feel self-conscious. And we do that as women. I don't know. We I always say that I'm not, they're going to get me canceled. It's going to get you canceled now too. The tourists and the slightly overweight male tourists on the beach in Speedos.
Sure.
Like, I want the mirror that man looks through, because he's got all the confidence in the world, right?
Yeah.
Like, and we don't look at ourselves through that mirror and that lens. And I feel like we should a little bit more.
Yeah.
So
like we should have more confidence just
Correct.
To show up as we are and not feel the societal pressure to show up in a certain way.
Right. Like, I was never born a size 2. I'm never going to be a size 2. It's like, no matter how much I try, I'm never going to have thigh gap, right? And it's like, at 50, I should be able to be out there and embrace my body and be like, look, this is me. And everything on my body right now is the scars, the adventures, the ups and downs of life. And it's okay. And I think we need to do much better for each other in that regard, right? So when we've got these women coming out to play pickleball, they're self-conscious. And think about it, as adults, we're terrible learners. When was the last time you learned something systematically? Like, it was in school. It's like conjugating verbs and sentences and blah, 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 blah. Like, we do things in a progress. And as adults, we're like, we don't crawl, walk, run. We just go straight to run. And and we get frustrated. And we're like, I should be able to do this. It looks simple and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I wanted to create this space for people to be able to come in and have fun and laugh at themselves. And like, pickleball has given us the ability to play again, which we forget how to do. And as adults now, we're playing, and it's like, I want them to embrace playing and laugh at themselves and be silly. And I'll tell them, look, no matter what you do or whatever mistake you've made, I've made it in front of thousands of people. you're just making it in front of 4. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, exactly.
And mine was recorded.
Mine was recorded. It was put all over the internet. Oh, also
Right,
by
it's gone
myself.
viral,
I decided to
yes.
put it on the internet.
Yeah, I may have done that. But, but it's all about creating this space for these women to just come out and be active because, it's being active is healthy. And the older, the older we get, the more we need to take care of our bodies and stay active. And B, it's like, I just like putting smiles on people's faces. And pickleball is a vehicle that allows 99% of the population to be able to play no matter where you come from.
Yeah, I love that. And I think it's something that I feel a lot of, I would say, conviction in because I think it's so cool how many elements of women's sport is being celebrated right now. And we throw around the word first a lot. We say, like, oh, this is the first time a woman has done this. This is the first time a woman's got this score at this, wherever, whatever. And I think so often it's so important to not forget where we came from and who really we're standing on the shoulders of. Because at this point, it's really hard to be the first in women's sport, in all sports, right? Like I spend a lot of my time in surfing, in extreme sports, in action sports. And even there, where, women are still. It was 4 years ago that we had a legitimate, the WSL first had a full women's competition at Pipeline. But that was not the first women's competition at Pipeline. It was the first time it was a part of the WSL or the ASP or this really organized body of sport, but it wasn't the first time. Right. And so we have to be really careful because I think that we're so focused on making sure we don't exclude looking this way, right? Like looking towards the generations coming behind. We want to show these girls who are 6, 7, 10, 12, 22. These are all the avenues in sport that are open to you. But it's equally as important to look ahead and say, hey, women in their 70s and their 80s who are no longer with us in their 60s, you guys set the standard. You pushed the narrative. You started this so that we just took the baton the next step, right? And like, we're not the first one with the baton. We could be the third. And I think that's something that I feel a lot of conviction within because it's so easy to get so hyped up and so excited about where women's sport is that you want to be like, oh yeah, it's the first. But sometimes it's not. And that's okay. It doesn't diminish what women are doing right now. It's just not excluding what women have done before.
Right. And I think sort of like with surfing, women's surfing, right? It's a relatively new, not new sport, but new wave that's coming through, right? And with pickleball, same thing. And I remember watching a documentary on like the original, the women surfing in Hawaii, like back in the, I think it was the 50s or 60s. And it's like, those stories need to be told. It's the same as like when Billie Jean King took the leap of faith and wanted to start the WTA, right? And really start this tour. It's like, yes, she's the one who's remembered for it, but there were 11 women that signed. Like those stories, right? The same in pickleball. It's like you've got Alex Hamner, Jennifer LaCour, Jen Dawson, Christine Barksdale, Gigi DeMaster. You've got these women who sort of helped pave the way, and the platform that these athletes are being provided at the professional level now wouldn't have happened without these women. And the guys also. But it's like those stories cannot be forgotten. And they're only 2 generations removed from the generation coming in now. And the fact that these people don't know who they are, that breaks my heart. It's not like we're going back 150 years. I'm not going to, it's like, oh, the first lady who rode a bicycle. I don't know her and I probably should, but, we're not going that far back. We're only going back to 2 to 3 generations. It's not long. So they need to be present. And it's like when these women show up at tournaments, I want the younger generation to go up and talk to them, yes, get the autograph, take a photo with them, have a conversation. They'll give you the time of day. Because these are the people that helped shape your career. And that cannot be forgotten ever.
And I think it goes into exactly what you're saying of I feel like, and it's so funny, right? I'm in my early 30s and I'm starting to feel this bizarre external pressure of like, well, you're running out of time because you're in your early 30s. And in this industry, how many 50-year-olds do you see? How many 40-year-olds do you see? And there's like, it's starting to come in and I'm sitting here going, no, I'm in my early 30s. Like my time is now. Like maybe I'm in my prime, but I have no intention of my prime being 2 years, like this is going to be a long time coming. And I feel like society in general, and then sport, even as a microcosm of it, does try to push women to believe that they are less as they get older, or to believe that they don't have much to contribute anymore, and to say that, and I don't buy into it. I don't want to buy into it. And I feel like that's what you are working so hard at with this Game Change Her events, is saying, no, you still have value. You can still have fun. You can still be a part of a community. How have you seen that mindset impact somebody who maybe felt forgotten before they were able to be a part of this?
100%. And real quick, it's like, you have this phenomenal platform and you're so cognizant of the fact that, the sport that you're in now, let's say it's surfing, right? Or your extreme games. It's like, you're looking at these women and you're like, no, but there's women that came before you. And those women, you need to know who they are, and you get to tell those stories, right? And it's like, in pickleball, I feel like sometimes the commentators are getting younger and younger, and they're not caring about generations past. And what happens is, like, and it's the same as, like, I remember when the spin serve was, before it was outlawed, everyone was like, oh, Zane did the first spin serve. No, it wasn't. It was actually Morgan Freeman years prior who did that. Not Morgan Freeman, Morgan Evans.
Yeah.
And now Morgan Freeman's
like,
playing pickleball. Yeah.
Convenient name to be also having.
Right. No, Morgan Evans, right? And he was the first one who did it. But that got forgotten because it was, at the time, the wave of pickleball rose, and it was more in people's living rooms, and then it was Zane. But Morgan did it first, and those are the things that don't get told. Yeah. And if that's not getting told, and that was only a year prior, imagine 10 years ago, when you've got Jennifer and Gigi and, and Alex doing all the things that they're doing. So those stories need to be told. And I wish the commentators would maybe do their homework, or be a little bit more aware of what came before to shape what's happening now, right?
Yeah, well, and that's the crazy part, though, is the homework, right? And it's so hard to find these stories. And these stories get told oftentimes through word of mouth, through going up to the person who's in their 50s or in their 60s at a tournament and saying, tell me a little bit about what it was like when you first got in it. Who'd you look up to? Who was on the court? Who was setting the standard? And that's such it's why these moments are so important, because I want you to tell us right here, I want you to know, I want us to know, who are the women that set the standard in pickleball, because 7 years ago is when you got into it, but I know there were women that you looked up to. I know there were women that you worked with. And I just feel like, again, that's why it's so important to not forget the generation who came before, the generations who came before.
And I think it's sort of culturally representative of, like, we're in this, because of technology, everything's this instant gratification. We get it now. So it's like, it's almost like we're so hyper focused on the now that we forget, like, we don't have to do research anymore. We don't have to do this because we want this now. And this, what's happening right now, is just way more important than what happened before. And it's like, no, there's a reason what happened before affects the now, right? And it's like, how can we do that? Because if we don't do it now, the next generation is not going to do it. The next generation is not going to do it. And then all of a sudden it's like, they're just going to be names in a book that people are like, oh, I think I've heard of them. And it's like, no, you should never, ever forget who the true pioneers were, because we don't have this platform. And, when you look at pickleball and you look at the spaces that people occupy, right? People occupy their space at home, their space at work. What is that third space? And pickleball has become that third space for a lot of the older women and older men. And it's become this great vehicle for them to be a place where they belong. They're a part of something. And the communities that have come out of that, and the friendships that have formed. It's like they say, the older you get, the smaller your friendship circle becomes. And in pickleball, not sadly, but the inverse happens, because now, I mean, I challenge anybody who's playing pickleball. I'm like, how many people in your phone do you have first or last name pickleball? And they're like, at least 200. And I'm like, she's like, and I shouldn't have that. And it's like, my friends have become pickleball friends, and real friends, and true friendships and connections, which I think is magical, because as we get older, we tend to become a little bit more insular, and pickleball's allowed us to be a little bit more extroverted and exist in this space where we belong, and we have friends and communities and conversations, and sort of, it's the pickleball's a vehicle, the sport is a vehicle, but the byproduct has been community and friendships and connection and belonging, which does so much for mental health as well as physical health, right?
Oh, 1,000,000%. And I just think, I remember my aunt is just an absolute powerhouse, and she could take me in almost any sport, just to be crystal clear. Like, this woman mountain bikes harder than almost anybody that I know. And has like the bones and like the scars and everything to prove it, the broken bones and her hospital records to prove it. But I remember the first time she introduced me to pickleball, and I was like, I don't know about this. Like, I think I've got you here. And she was like, okay. Next thing you know, like, she's wiping the court with me. And there was such, there was such youthfulness to her. And she's already like a young soul. Like she's already somebody who feels like, they never decided to get old. And so they didn't. And I remember being like, this is incredible. Like I want to remember how to play forever. And whether that is pickleball, whether that is surfing, whether that is whatever it is, I just think it's so cool that you are making sure to embrace the generations who don't have the opportunities that they started laying the foundation to create, and that's one of the hardest things about being a trailblazer is that you never get to actually walk the trail.
Right.
You never get to actually walk the trail that you've worked so hard to blaze. Instead, you're at the front, scraped, bruised, and sometimes walked over for the next generation. And what you're making sure is happening is that those women who had the scratches, who had the bruises, still feel valued. And I think that is really beautiful.
100%. And it's like you said, right? The trailblazers never get to walk the trail. And they also, sadly, don't get the benefit of the contracts and the dollars behind that.
Yeah.
They're looking back going, oh, wow, if I was born 10 years later, I could be there, reaping the benefits of a 6-figure contract or something that they never had the opportunity to get, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad that pickleball has you and so many women like you who are embracing the community, who are embracing the next generation, the previous generations, and I just think it's incredible. So, thank you for sharing your story and for being a part of it and for bringing the sass and the life and the energy every time you step on the court, every time you come up on my Instagram page. It just is so much fun to see you, and I love rooting you on at every single pickleball tournament you go to, which is like one a weekend, by the way, ma'am.
I know they're a bit much right now, but thanks. And likewise, right? I love what you're doing in the space. I love that you're lifting women. And, I think that collectively we can all do that a little bit more. It'll be a lot more joyous place.
It certainly would be, but that's what we are working to create.
100%.
So, okay, we are going to move on to our Something to Sip On segment. This is brought to you by the Sports Bra. It is a women's sports bar in Portland, Oregon. And the woman who started this bar is a good friend of mine, Jenny, and she is one of these women that we love talking about who looks at the women before her, who saw the opportunity and now is creating opportunity for women everywhere. So, Lee, I want to know, what are you sipping on? This is your favorite cocktail or mocktail? Post pickleball, pre pickleball, what are you sipping on?
Oof. Well, it's my motto has always been win or lose, have a beer, right? We drink beer. Beer got me into the sport. My really good friend bribed me into playing pickleball with a case of beer.
You're kidding.
I said I would never play, and we argued for 30 minutes of why I should play this tournament with her. I said I'm not doing it, and she's like, I'll buy you a case of beer. I'm like, you should have just led with that. So I have a price, and I'm not very expensive apparently. So cold beer, win or lose, always have a beer, and then if I need to be a little bit more serious, I'll Moscow Mule will always go, start with a beer, end with the Moscow Mule.
I love that. That's so good. I love a good Moscow Mule, especially if it comes in a copper cup. That
100%.
is like top tier, has to come in the copper. Okay, the next segment is the Powered Up segment. So this is where we get to know a few things that power you up for your sport of pickleball. So, what is the one piece of equipment that you could not do your sport without?
A paddle.
Very fair. What is the most important thing in your bag?
So this is going to sound really cheesy, but I always have. So I have in my pickleball bag, it's like a little zipper bag, and it's got everything that anybody who's ever meant anything to me has ever given me as good luck. So like I've got my grandma's rosary in there. I've got some challenge coins from my Wounded Warrior friends that I got to meet and be inspired by. So I've got some different things in there that mean the world to me because and they have to be in my bag. Like it's not a good day if I show up at a tournament without that. I'm completely discombobulated.
Wow, I love that. That doesn't sound cheesy at all. I love that. What is the attitude that you have to bring with you to the pickleball court?
Entertainment, obviously first. And also the attitude of like, I'm playing a plastic ball. My opponents are never going to come over the net. So play the ball and play to win instead of, I think a lot of times we play not to lose instead of playing to win. If you play to win, whether the result favors you or not, you can always learn from that and fix that. But if you play not to lose, you become very, very passive and hope for the others to make a mistake. So I always try to play to win and also keeping in perspective that it's a plastic ball and it still has to be fun because this is why we're doing this.
And then the last question is, if pickleball was a video game and somebody had the controller and they moved over Lee Whitwell, what are the strengths that they would see listed? What are the weaknesses? And what is your character name?
My character name probably be like Squatting Dog or something.
Fantastic.
No, I'll go with Amazon Goddess. How's that?
I love that. Amazon Goddess. I like that. I think it should be Spanish Goddess, though. Or I guess Gibraltar Goddess?
Or just Lady Gibraltar?
Lady Gibraltar. I like that.
That's kind of my
little,
Instagram handle.
We'd put a little British, like, you know, one of those things that the ladies used to wear, and it would be all elegant, but then you'd be flying through, like, what was her name in Robin Hood? Lady Marian, playing badminton. Yes. That would be you.
So my strengths would be reset, earnies, around the post, firefights. Nice. And then my weaknesses would be ability to concentrate for long periods of time. and to get really bored if no one's watching.
Must have an audience.
Must have an audience to perform. I will perform with an audience. When there's no audience, I'm like, well, this is boring. I'm like, oh, this
what
is
am I here for? Nobody's cheering me. No one's heckling me. What is the point?
Exactly.
I love that. And then the very last question I have for you, friend, is this is the Powerful Podcast. We're all about uplifting powerful women and trying to inspire the audience that listens to us to be powerful themselves. So what makes you feel the most powerful?
My inner circle that does everything in their power to lift me every day and stand beside me, good, bad, and ugly.
That's awesome. That inner circle is so important, and I am just really grateful that pickleball brought you into my life and that you are always going to be somebody who I can count on. It's who you are. It's who you continue to be for so many. So, Lee, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. And same sentiment back to you. I'm so glad that we got to meet and have the conversations that we've had and become friends, because you're amazing, AJ. Yeah, likewise.
Back at you, sis. You are stuck with me forever. So, friends, thank you for listening to the Powerful Podcast. We'll be back next week. And in the meantime, make sure you follow Lee on Instagram, Lady Gibraltar, because I promise you, if you're having a bad day, you won't after you see whatever the heck she posts. We'll see you next time. This is a reminder to check us out every Tuesday, everywhere you get your podcasts. And if you really enjoy this and don't want to miss an episode, be sure to hit that subscribe button.